Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing a deep dive, a completely objective, science-based audit of a massive grocery staple. And we're holding it up against the brand new federal dietary guidelines. We're going to look really closely at what actually happens inside your body when modern food engineering collides with the government's aggressive new push for real food.
Okay, let's dive right into this bowl of yogurt and look past all the clever marketing. It's one thing to see a bold, high-protein claim slapped on a plastic cup, but it's an entirely different thing to understand exactly how your stomach, your intestines, and your microbiome process what's actually inside that cup. So today, we are breaking down every single ingredient to see exactly how they impact you biologically.
Here's our roadmap. We'll quickly hit the new food guidelines, jump into the Chobani ingredient audit, check out the protein, dairy, and cultures, tackle the stevia sweetener debate, look at the gums and additives, and finally, deliver our verdict.
Section 1. The new food guidelines.
So these new federal guidelines emphasize a massive return to real food. They are explicitly urging us to prioritize high-quality, nutrient-dense protein, choose full-fat dairy, actively support our gut health, and strictly limit zero-calorie sweetening chemicals. The overarching philosophy here is pretty simple but incredibly profound. Our bodies evolved to process whole foods. By shifting away from heavily engineered, factory-made products and getting back to whole foods in their original form, the goal is to actively combat rising rates of chronic disease. This right here is the new baseline standard we're going to use to measure our yogurt.
Section 2. The Chobani ingredient audit.
Take a look at this breakdown. It brilliantly illustrates that while the fruit additions obviously vary, the base formula is nearly identical. Whether you grab vanilla, mango, or raspberry lemon, you're ingesting the exact same foundational chassis. That shared base includes cultured low-fat milk and water, an enzyme called lactase, sea salt and lemon juice concentrate, natural thickeners like fruit pectin, guar gum, and locust-ween gum, and finally, stevia extract for sweetness. So let's break down exactly how this specific cocktail of ingredients impacts your body. Section 3. Protein, dairy, and cultures. Comparing the yogurt base to the guidelines side by side, Chobani effortlessly passes on its gut-friendly live cultures, like S. thermophilus and bifidus. The new dietary guidelines absolutely love fermented foods, because these live bugs act like an army of good guys for your immune system, setting up camp in your intestines to aid your digestion. Chobani also includes an ingredient called lactase. Think of lactase like a tiny pair of biological scissors. It cuts up lactose, the natural, complex sugar found in milk, into much simpler pieces. This means even people with dairy sensitivities can digest it easily without any stomach pain or bloating.
However, there's a distinct catch here. Chobani uses low-fat milk, but the new dietary guidelines explicitly instruct us to eat full-fat dairy. So why the change? Well, biologically, the healthy fats in milk act as essential carriers. Fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K literally require those dietary fats so your body can actually absorb them into your bloodstream. For decades, low fat was the gold standard just to cut calories, but we now know those dairy fats are absolutely vital for brain development, cellular health, and honestly, just keeping you feeling full longer. By aggressively stripping the fat out to keep the calorie count low, this yogurt completely misses a major real food biological benchmark.
Section 4. The stevia sweetened addict.
Chobani uses stevia extract, which is classified as a non-nutritive sweetener. In simple terms, this means your stomach literally cannot digest it for energy. Because your upper digestive tract doesn't break it down at all, it passes all the way down into your lower intestines completely intact. Now, on one hand, because it gives you a massive hit of high sweetness without any usable calories, it successfully prevents the dangerous rapid blood sugar spikes that you'd get with regular table sugar. But on the other hand, it means your delicate, highly complex gut bugs are now forcefully tasked with dealing with this unfamiliar compound.
This creates a really fascinating dietary conflict right on the label. Chobani completely avoids added sugar, which is a huge, undeniable win, as the guidelines stress that added sugars are effectively toxic to our long-term metabolism. But to keep the yogurt hyper-palatable and sweet, they rely heavily on this non-nutritive sweetener. And the new guidelines explicitly tell us to limit those. You're essentially trading a known villain, added sugar, for a highly processed lab-refined sweetening substitute.
To understand what stevia actually does to your body, we can look to a critical review from ETH Zurich. They found that the biological effects of these sweeteners on our gut bugs are entirely inconsistent. While stevia technically originates from a leaf, the white powder going into the yogurt is highly refined in a laboratory.
When that refined extract hits your microbiome, some studies suggest it actively confuses your bacteria, potentially altering their composition and disrupting digestion, while other studies suggest it passes through completely harmlessly. The reality is, the science simply isn't settled yet, which means you are kind of acting as the test subject.
Section 5. Gums, pectin, and additives.
Looking closely at the ingredient label, you'll see fruit pectin, guar gum, and locust bean gum. Pectin naturally comes from citrus peels. Guar is extracted from guar beans, and locust bean gum comes from the seeds of the carob tree. So we have to ask a very direct question. If the new federal guidelines tell us to avoid highly processed chemical additives, do these heavily refined texture agents fail the test when they enter your digestive tract?
These 3 specific ingredients are used widely across the modern food industry to prevent separation. Without them, your high-protein yogurt wouldn't look very appetizing at all. You'd open the plastic cup to find a cloudy pool of whey water floating on top of a chalky, clumpy protein base. Nobody wants that. These gums act as a powerful structural matrix, locking the water, milk proteins, and flavorings together into the smooth, consistently creamy texture we've all been conditioned to expect.
By definition, these ingredients act as emulsifiers and stabilizers. Think of an emulsifier quite literally like dish soap. It forcefully bonds things that normally refuse to mix, like water and fat, blending them together perfectly. However, this entire class of additives has raised massive red flags in recent years. Some harsh synthetic emulsifiers have been proven in clinical studies to literally wash away the protective mucus layer in the human gut, leaving the intestinal wall completely exposed. And that directly leads to inflammation, colitis, and metabolic syndrome.
But there is a really important silver lining for this specific yogurt. That same ETH-Zork study notes a major biological difference between synthetic lab-made chemicals and the naturally derived plant gums, like those found in Chobani. Because pectin and seed gums originate from robust plants, they don't act like harsh, destructive detergents in your stomach. Instead, your body largely processes them just like harmless dietary fiber. They act a bit like a gut broom, passing through your system neutrally, and in some cases they can actually serve as a food source, actively feeding some of your beneficial gut bugs.
Section 6. The final verdict. This scorecard perfectly illustrates the modern food dilemma. Chobani passes with flying colors on delivering essential muscle-building protein, active immune-boosting cultures, and using real fruit. It delivers an incredibly convenient lactose-free 20 grams of protein with absolutely zero added sugar. That is a massive nutritional win, but there's a clear, undeniable trade-off. It requires a compromise regarding its heavily processed low-fat base, its reliance on stevia to cheat the calorie count and trick your taste buds, and its use of stabilizing plant gums to synthetically hold the entire mixture together.
Ultimately, while this yogurt is a highly efficient protein delivery vehicle, it's significantly more processed than the pure, whole food baseline the government is now championing. The new dietary guidelines desperately want you eating ingredients as close to their natural, original state as biologically possible. Think an apple picked straight from the tree, or full-fat milk sourced straight from the farm. This specific yogurt sits right in the middle of the spectrum. It utilizes healthy, real food building blocks for sure, but it relies heavily on modern industrial science to combine them into the low-calorie, hyper-palatable, shelf-stable snack we demand.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought. Armed with the precise science of how your microbiome actually processes these individual ingredients, how will your perspective shift the next time you navigate the sprawling grocery store dairy aisle? Will you opt for the highly engineered convenience of high-protein, zero-sugar cups? Or will you reach for the simple, one-ingredient, full-fat plain yogurt and sweeten it yourself with a handful of fresh berries? The choice, and its profound biological impact on your gut, is entirely yours. Thanks for joining us on this explainer, and remember to always look a little deeper past the label.